Hi, this is Natalie Callback, and I'm super excited to be here with my friend Bruno Nadalin. He's also in Jersey City, amazing artist and illustrator, and he's also a printmaker. He will tell me what I did say
Yeah.
wrong, but I took not a ton, but a lot of classes with Bruno, and I learned an insane amount of amazing things. Every of one of his classes, he's a very, very good teacher, and every one of his classes have inspired me way beyond the actual class that he taught on printmaking. It always has resulted in some ideas for my, stamp making or printmaking in a different way. And so I owe Bruno a ton of gratitude for his awesome classes, and I can't wait to take some more soon again, hopefully. Hey, Bruno.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much. That's so good to hear.
So good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing good. As good as can be expected.
Right.
How are you doing?
Bruno, did I introduce you right? Is that what you're doing?
I think you introduced me better than I deserve. But yes, thank you. That was very, very nice to hear.
So we already mentioned that you're teaching besides making art, but how did your life before COVID-19, like a regular day, look like, and how did that change now?
What's changed the most is, teaching has completely dropped off. We mentioned, we were talking a little before about teaching online. Kind of working on getting that going, but then at the same time also not. So I don't know, just kind of the logistics of it. There's a lot of hurdles with it, with something that hands-on, but I'm hoping to get maybe some online classes going with some simple printmaking. But that's the big change. There's been no teaching, either at the Jersey City Art School or any of the other places that I would teach at, So that's been the major change in terms of my art practice.
So for the teaching and also for your own artwork, like when you do and we talk a little bit more about like what your artwork, what that is, but you use a lot of the printing press, it's a gigantic, heavy machine in the art school that you actually also use in your studio. And but you're going still to the studio, actually?
Yeah, I still have access to the press and to the studio, but it's just in terms of, having people there, other people coming into work, there's no classes running at the school. And as I was saying, not just that, I would sometimes teach in the city or teach in Bayonne, and all those schools are closed down as well. In terms of doing anything online, it would be, you took classes back before we had any press, so you could still do things with the old wooden spoon and just using your hands. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do in online classes. But in terms of my own personal work, I'm very lucky in the sense that I'm still, for now at least, have access to that space and can work there,
Right, and I remember we did like linoleum carving and stamp carving. That was before they had the printing press, and then we did. Now I'm gonna blank out on the formal names again, but we did some dry point etching, right?
Dry point, yeah.
And that's gonna be.
Go on, yeah.
That's going to be hard without a printing press.
Yeah, dry point, you really need the press. So anything online would have to be like lino cut or doing rubber block cutting or things like that, But yeah, personally, I've been doing a lot of etching and, using the press there. So I've just kind of been continuing that and doing a lot of just experimenting. One thing that in my personal work for a while, during this quarantine, I was actually going out to very isolated places, drawing a lot outside, which was something I hadn't been doing in a long time. So it was good to get back into that practice when the weather's nice. One nice thing is there's no cars out now. There's no people out, so you can kind of find a little corner somewhere and just draw. So that's one thing that's been kind of changed with with things kind of slowing down as they have,
So speaking of your work, and I already see a book there that says Bosch to me, and I'm assuming that's Hieronymus Bosch.
Yeah.
So your work is kind of dark and twisted sometimes and grotesque, and it's
Fair to say.
right. I mean, I love it.
No,
I love it. But like, it's like sometimes about social anxieties and right.
yeah.
How does this situation right now
Mm-hmm.
play into what you're doing in your artwork?
It's a good question. I don't know if there's a direct influence. There's not one that I'm consciously commenting on. I'm sure it's influencing it in some way, although I wouldn't say that I'm making a commentary on it. One way is, I think actually what I'm feeling a lot, and I don't want to complain about it. People are dealing with terrible things. So for me to be like, oh, I don't want to trivialize things. But it's one thing that's strange is I realize how much as in terms of the outside world feeding one's artwork, there's kind of all those inputs of walking around, of seeing things, of seeing people, that I think that kind of build this residual store of imagery. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but kind of like that little reserve of inspiration is drying up, I feel, because, I still go out, I still walk to the studio and walk back, but you've got a mask on, you got your head down, and like I haven't been to the city, to New York, and I think since middle of March, like over a month. So I don't think my work is directly commenting on it, but I'm sure in some way this lack of interaction with the world is, I'm wondering if I'm a little anxious about what's going to happen with the work, and I'm also being aware of, like, is something changing with it? So far, I'm not sure that it has, because I think I'm working on some things that I was still working on from before. So it's there's still some projects that now I'm like that are ongoing. So I think maybe, like, I'm saying, like, if this goes on for another month, another 2 months, I think I might have a different answer for you. Well, I think I'm still in the early stages of it, in terms of my own artwork.
It's interesting that you mentioned that that you feel like that you're in the outside inspiration and what feeds your art usually it's starting to dry up the longer we're inside, and I kind of feel the same because I'm like highly drawing my inspiration from the outside. But it's also it's a weird world, and I think part of it is because we're like staying at home so long, so that every time when you then have to go out or you go out, it's almost like an anxiety is like lurking there and saying, hey, you're not used to going outside anymore. Now everything looks like a threat and is kind of weird. Like, this is not the world how you know it, right?
Yeah. I think it's, I've always been kind of, kind of a solitary person, but I think in a context of a very busy world. So I think, like now, I went to Journal Square the other day and everything is closed. It's so strange because everything is shuttered. And so you kind of like all those stores that you would pass and seeing everybody else's lives and everybody else's interactions, and that doesn't exist anymore. You only see people standing in lines outside.
Right.
So I think, I also think about, I had that residency in Gutenberg in the fall of 2019 and then continued going there. I really loved working there at Gutenberg Arts. And I would always do that walk it was about a 20-block walk, short blocks, but, from 49th Street to 70th Street along Bergen Line Avenue, which, if you know it, is just jammed. It's like such a compressed little, urban space. And having not done that in months, like that was such a ritual, and it was such a every day kind of like a feeding of visual input that I wasn't necessarily aware of at the time. But now that's what I'm saying. Like now that I don't have that, I'm aware of how much that was kind of inspiring me in a way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because of talking with a lot of artists, and I realize that a lot of artists say, I'm an introvert, extrovert. Like you have this thing where you work in solitary and you can do that forever and love it. But especially for a lot of us, like in a city, we really feed on that energy that's outside, and you don't really have to interact too much with other people. I'm not saying that it's good, but you still have your social interactions and this burst of energy without really having to kind of, get out of your like little shell and, and now that's gone, and now you're really solitary. Oh.
It is, as you're saying, you're kind of in this middle world where you are solitary or you are isolated a bit, but you're not in the woods. You're not in, a desert somewhere. You're in a very, you're still in the world very much, or you were before all of this.
Right.
So, but as I said, I still feel like I'm kind of continuing projects that I had from before. So for now, personally, in terms of my own artwork, I feel like I'm still kind of doing work that I was doing before in many ways.
Speaking of doing work before, so you had a gallery opening right before we were going on lockdown. I actually missed it because I was like, I'm going to go next weekend. And then there was no next weekend for watching it. And you guys did a YouTube video with a little tour about it, which we should link up to. But how was that? That was like, it was called the 7-Year Itch, and it was like your work from the past 7 years, right?
Yeah, that was. I moved into that. There was the gallery in the front at 313 3rd Street, and then in the back they had studios back there. So I had a studio back there since March of 2013. Had to move out to a new space where I am now started moving in January of this year. So it was like about 7 years I was packing up, and I was like, oh, this stuff, maybe I can sell some of it and not have to move it. So it was kind of a retrospective, but it was also work that I wouldn't normally show, or that one wouldn't normally show, like sketches and half-finished things and things I started and threw away, And as you said, it was March 7th was the opening, and, already that was very much in the air, like what is happening, what's going on with this coronavirus. But that felt like the last weekend that people really were out. Because, as you said, after that, it was by March 14th, I think we were pretty much like, okay, we're in lockdown now. So we had the opening, which was great, but then that was it for that show. Yeah. Although it's still technically still up. But nobody's coming by.
But it was a great idea that you guys did that YouTube video.
Yeah, that was. I'm very grateful to Thomas Carlson, who runs the gallery in the school, and Theo Leung, who did the video. Kind of just had that idea to do a virtual tour of it. Yeah, I'm very happy with the way that turned out.
Do you think that this is going to be something that you guys could think about every gallery opening? Like, let's say we're going back to normal and we, but having that, because now people can see that, that would have never seen your show because they're like, let's say, in a total different city or country even, or, right?
Yeah, that would be a great idea. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how much galleries, there's a lot of, I think many galleries or art spaces are adapting in this way. So it'll be interesting to see how that, if that does continue in general going forward after this. But yeah, that would be very cool.
I think what's different about that is, of course, it's always different when you see artwork like in person, and also with your printmaking. I think it's like a different thing because you can actually like try to see like, okay, how was that like You know, if you have layers that you like several prints on top, or you paint it on top, like you
Right.
sometimes work on top of your prints with gouache or watercolor, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or you print about on top of it with something else. So that's a little bit hard, I think, to see in a video, like because
Yeah.
it all looks like it's one thing.
Right.
But what I loved was how you were talking about it and how you were explaining some
Mm.
things and gave some insight into your process,
Oh,
which
okay.
not every time, unless you're there personally,
Yeah.
you can hear from the artist
Yeah.
in a gallery, right?
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you like that. Yeah, that's the fun part for me to talk about more than when people are like, "What is this about?" You're like, I don't know. You know, but it's like, yeah, I like talking process. I like talking technique in that way. So I'm glad that was something that you appreciated.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, cool.
So
Yeah. Go,
no, so go ahead.
no, I think that's something I've been talking about doing online classes. Like I'm very not tech savvy, so I think that would be something though that I'd be interested in showing because like right now the work I'm doing is I'm just experimenting a lot with a lot of etching and techniques like that. So I think it would be sometimes there's a lot of work that goes into one little thing that when you look at it you're like, that's not very interesting, but the process of it to me is interesting. So it would be cool, I think, in a way maybe to document that. I would kind of need like another version of myself to because I just suck with technology and I have no patience with it. So, but that would be something that would be, seeing how long this goes on, that might be something I have to face and learn to do, you know.
So what are you working on right now? Like what are you doing? What kind of printing technique, or is it still etching? Is it dry point etching or with chemicals?
It's etching. I'm mostly working on etching with copper plates and zinc plates. I'm trying to do kind of actually, and I don't know if this will go anywhere. Like, and this was a project that again I started before, so I was continuing. Again, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but I'm trying to do little sculptures with the etching plates, so that you're getting a print. You know, you're getting a print, but you're also taking the actual metal and showing that or using that as a thing in itself. Because I really just love, especially zinc plates, when you really start working them a lot and they just start getting all bitten really deeply, just as objects in themselves, they have a lot of life to them. So I've been kind of trying to do that. Where I don't know if is that making sense. So you're using the plate as as a way of making a print, but then you're also changing it into a little sculpture.
That is such a great idea.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Because it is a piece of art, because you drew into that, you made the artwork for the plate.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is a piece of art in itself.
I mean, right now I have some limitations because of just equipment. You know, I need some actual tools so I have to research it more also. Like it's more, as I'm researching it, I'm finding it more, it's like, well, these are actually people that work with jewelry. It's kind of more that kind of thing, you know? So you need kind of more of those kinds of, and again, so I don't know how deep I'll get into it because it may be like, all right, this is an investment of materials and time that is not worth it, but that's what I'm working on a lot. This is one, actually, hold on, Catherine just wrote. This is one can you see? It's like, so this is a very simple one, but it's actually like a metal object.
Oh, that's cool.
Things engraved.
Yeah.
It has some writing engraved into it. This one, I didn't work out that great, and it's also very simple. So you can see also I had a lot of trouble bending it. I had to do it by hand. So,
that's awesome. I love that.
Oh, thanks. But I'm working on other ones, and some of the ones I'm doing now have less folding because the folding of the metal is tough. I don't have any equipment. I don't have a vise. I don't have really any tools. But it's more. It kind of came about through the process of etching, where kind of working plates over and over and over, and just at one point kind of saying like, wow, I really just like the way this metal looks when it's all beaten up,
Yeah.
and it kind of looks very cool. So yeah, that's kind of something I've been playing with a little bit these days.
Do you know? I mean, I guess like you could ask our friend Wendy Zetzer, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't she
yeah,
do
yeah.
jewelry? So she might have some tools or.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you always
I
have to
haven't
think
seen her.
about the people that we.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Let's see how it goes. Again, it might be something that I work for a couple more weeks and then just be like, oh, I wasted my time.
But you never waste your time. You know that too.
Well, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, sometimes you're like, oh boy. Yeah.
So last question, again, because I'm seeing, I'm seeing the Bosch book still there. Do you know? Because sometimes people are like wondering, like, how could someone get all these like crazy ideas of, making these grotesque pieces, or like, do you? I mean, you are obviously have done that before, and you're into that before, but right now with this time being, I feel like I have a better understanding how someone could have this like ideas and fantasies.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This is something I've always done, so I don't know that the conditions we're in now I don't know if that's having a direct effect on it. You know what I mean? I always did those kinds of that kind of grotesque imagery. And as I said, like I've been drawing outside a lot. Like, so sometimes, some days I'll just do very straightforward little drawings of a building, where it's like, and I feel like I have a lot of that. I don't know if it's a tension between the two, but sometimes if I work from my head for too long, I kind of feel like I'm just kind of repeating the same stuff over and over, and I'm getting lazy as an artist, as a draftsperson, or just my skills are getting lazy, are getting weak. So then I'll feel like, okay, I have to draw from life and just do a humble drawing that doesn't say anything other than what it is, So I'm kind of going back and forth between the two, So, and I think, saying before how losing that kind of everyday input of the world, as it was, that's kind of affecting the imagination in a way, because there's, things may be grotesque and may look weird and surreal or whatever, but I do think they do have some foundation in reality, so losing that one side of it, I think that's something that, as I said, I want to keep my eye on going forward. Is that going to affect my art in any way? As doing all this, has like interviewing artists, and I mean, you're doing a lot online. You're doing a lot of. I see you doing. You were doing online stuff before, but doing the interviews, has that affected your work at all, or has it been?
Yeah, I think that's very. I feel that this is very inspiring for me. Like, it gives me that sense of energy that's still there. And not every artist has everyone is struggling, which is interesting to, hear, because you're kind of like, I'm the only one who doesn't turn this into some creative amazingness. There's all these people on social media and they're also frenzy and they're doing the most amazing stuff. But then when you talk to your artist friends, you're like, well, we all kind of struggle with that, right? There's like the real world and there's the social media world, right?
Everybody always looks like they're doing great on
exactly. But it's interesting, I think, to hear how then everyone comes to kind of like this, okay, this is like for now the new normal. And how do I cater into my work, either very consciously and saying, okay, I'm going to use this and work on something that I've never worked before. I had an interview with a friend, Mario Robinson, who's doing a gigantic watercolor painting. I've never seen anything like that. And he was like, I don't know if I can finish it. It's crazy and it's really hard. But, he's like kind of like saying, I'm going to do this now, right? And then there's other people that say, I'm just glad I'm alive, or they are photographers, and they, I don't know if you know Grant Hardaway, and he does like urban photography on Jersey City Street. And he was like, I'm studying like other photographers and thinking and looking at my old work and kind of like reminiscent how I, redo some work or change my work, or what could I do differently. So it's interesting. It's definitely inspiring, I think.
Yeah. It's something that, you do hear some artists who are doing the thing. It's like, okay, now I'm going to do that crazy huge project that I would never in normal, like, I don't know. I find it hard to, you know how it is. So the days kind of run together a bit. It's kind of, there is this inertia that I feel prevents me from doing something like that. So I'm kind of just doing, trying to do a few hours every day. It hasn't made me super ambitious, I guess is what I'm saying. So like your friend who's doing, the person you mentioned who's doing the giant watercolor, I kind of think like, oh, that would be cool to do, but I don't know. I'm not feeling called to do that in a way. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, I totally get it. I think there's two reasons why I don't feel like it. First of all, I think I still emotionally struggle from day to day. One day I'm like, we'll be over someday. And then the next day I'm like really not feeling it. I'm like really kind of almost depressed, I would say, and I'm like, I just don't. And I think the other thing is that then I would have to admit that this is going to go on another couple of weeks. I mean, which it will, but
so it's
kind of like, oh my God, if I now start with this big thing I've never done, then I'm jinxing it.
Yeah. That's true. But
should have done that earlier. I should have done that 2 months ago.
Right. But it's also, I think, at least from, I don't make a living off my art, or my studio work. So I think the way that I, speaking just for myself, but I think a lot of artists also, the way that you work is built around a normal life, a normal day. So that's a big change to then say like, okay, well now you don't have to work around all your other obligations and all these other jobs or all these other things that are going on. Now, like, okay, sleep till 11. No one's gonna,
right.
And so I think that's also, I guess it's just in a way like we should understand we're navigating a new world in that way. So it's okay,
Exactly.
It's a new way of working.
Exactly. And and I think like you do something that's different when you show this, like it might have been this idea that has been festering and percolating in you for a while about using those plates in a new way. But you do that. That is different and that is new. And that's exactly what I think is like the next step from like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I just want to have a normal life, and I'm just glad I somehow make it. And how do I, make my living as an artist actually? Let's see how I can't change this right now. I can't, like, it's not in our hands to change besides staying at home, but
it's a problem bigger than us.
Exactly.
that we have to solve.
That was so good. Bruno, where can people, so hopefully you come back with your classes very soon because I'm ready. Cool. But where can people find your work and buy your work and support you?
Well, thanks. I have a website that's just my name, although that website that's something I should be doing during this time, is updating my website, which I haven't updated in years. So my website's just my name, brunonadalin.com. My Instagram is probably the thing I keep up with the most. I usually post something every day, just sketchbook stuff usually. But so that's also just my name, Bruno Nadalin. And then I have an Etsy shop that's also just my name. So I would say those three are probably the best bet.
Yeah, you can find Bruno's Etsy shop through his website too, and he has some wonderful prints there. So check it out. And yeah, hopefully you will find one that you would be interested in. So
I'm going to be putting new stuff up this weekend, hopefully. So
very cool.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you so much, Bruno.
Thanks, Natalie. This was awesome.
Good talking to you.
You too. Okay.
See you
I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.